Hi, everybody. I'm Carlos Yustis, sports anchor for Telemundo 48 and analyst for Chivas en Inglés for Telemundo Deportes, and you're listening to the Villas Podcast.
Mi bandera, lo grito por donde quiera. Mexicano 100% no existe ni una barrera. Mucho menos nos separa una frontera. Con papel o sin papeles, yo vivo a mi manera. No me importa en cualquier país. Si el cielo se pone negro, gris. Escuchando a Gerardo Ortiz, celebrando fiestas patrias con dos Génesis. Cantamos mariachi y en acapela. Miramos a diario con los jefes la pinche novela.
Hola amigos de Pancho Villa's Army, aquí el Zargento with episode 59 of Villa's Podcast. With me today, El Coronel once again. I swear, I don't know why I keep inviting this guy. He keeps beating me up in social media. He won the jersey of Mexico from me. I'm a sucker for pain, man. So I keep bringing him back. Coronel, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. You know, you said episode 59. I'm surprised we haven't been canceled yet. I mean, can you cancel it? Can you cancel your own channel? I don't know. But I'm very happy again to join you, Z, on this lovely, beautiful day. It's starting to get warm out here in Phoenix. But yeah, ready to get started with the show.
Excellent, man. Well, thanks again for, again, being by my side, because we have a guest that we have a lot of questions that we want to ask. We want to get to know them more than anything. I don't know about you, Coronel, but I'm a big fan of his. Ever since he was in Don Sábado Gigante, he's an actor. The guy's hilarious.
Wait. What are you talking about? We're talking about junior, not senior.
Are you serious?
Yeah, get the pasa away. Do your homework.
All right. Well, I mean, I didn't even prepare for junior, man. All right. Well, we'll see how it goes.
We're definitely canceled for sure.
Give it up for our guest, Carlos Yustis Jr. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? Nice to have you. Hey, and again, I'm a big promoter of my dad. I'm his biggest fan, obviously, and he's taught me a lot of the things that I know. I wouldn't really say I'm in this because of him, even though it's kind of like that. We'll get into it, but it's a huge honor. I mean, he would love to be on the podcast too. So one day you want to have him, I can make those arrangements for Senior to be here.
Oh, dude, I think we're gonna go viral when that happens. The guy's hilarious, dude. I mean, we'll talk more about that, but it's all about you, Carlos. Thanks for joining us. What we like to do is just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. I call your origin story. Tell us where you're born, raised, and kind of your journey up to this point, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was born and raised in Mexico City. I lived there until I was 17 years old. I moved to Miami, obviously, because my dad was working in Sábado Gigante. There was a point where he was working basically 3 weeks out of the month in Miami and then one in Mexico City. So that kind of complicated things for the family. And that's why he decided that we should move. He didn't have to convince me. He didn't try hard to convince me. I mean, you tell a 17-year-old you're moving to Miami. I had my bags already packed, right?
Yeah.
So I went to Miami. I was a junior in high school. While I was in Mexico, I played for Cruz Azul. I was in the ranks of Cruz Azul up to third division. I played third division, and when I was moving to the second division that year, it became professional, which means that you had to practice in the morning. So my dad, his wisdom and all the people he knew, he was like, you're sticking to school because you have good grades. Sometimes I'm like, why did I try in school? I should have not tried in school and just keep trying the soccer field. But I did well in school, so he was like, no, you're going to keep studying. And he took me out of professional soccer. Obviously, there's a lot of politics involved and things that are still true to today. So he didn't want me to be part of that. And he basically said, like, that's it for your soccer career. You can keep playing it, enjoy it, whatever. And we move out of that. I moved to Miami. I played high school. A really funny story. I couldn't play club because I was a year older, because to study English in Mexico, I had to do an extra grade. So when I was a senior, everybody was already in college in my same age group. So I couldn't play club. And that kind of, closed some doors for how college works. And it's something I became a coach later, and I try to fight with the academy system. I played junior and senior. I didn't play soccer in college, funny enough, even though I played with Cruz Azul, and I had a very short stint with the national team with U15 in Mexico. I started coaching. My coaches from high school decided that I was coaching material, and they kept me as a coach. So I coached high school for 12 years. And that's kind of like what the origin story starts, because I love soccer. Since I started playing at 8 years old, which I pick up soccer. My dad's a huge soccer fan, huge soccer fan. I actually call him a soccer groupie. If he has any excuse.
That's us.
If he has any excuse to go meet a soccer player with the excuse that he's famous, he'll be like, "Oh, what's up, man?" And if they recognize him, it's even better because it's like, "Hey, so we should change numbers. I can invite you to dinner, this and that." Like that's how he became friends with soccer players, which was a big part of me growing up, like showing up home from school and being like, "Why is El Conejo Perez here? Like, how did this happen?"
Yeah, what's point sitting living in my living room, right?
Yeah, it was all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And I'm like, "Is this who I think it is? Like, why is Carlos Hermosillo here? Like, what did we do?" So anyway, so because of that, I always loved soccer. I picked up soccer because I loved Captain Tsubasa, which in Mexico we call it Supercampeones. When that cartoon came around, it was right at the same time as the 1994 World Cup.
Yep.
So I picked up soccer, and my dad was in love with the fact that I loved soccer. After that, he was watching games all day, every day, going to practice all 5 days of the week, playing on Saturdays and Sundays. So, but to me, soccer was that, like everything that was on the field. I've never envisioned myself like doing something outside of that. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in high school and I'm moving to college, my dad one day decides that they start asking me, "What are you going to study?" And when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be an engineer. Like in my head, I was like, you know what? I'm going to build robots. Like I'm going to send things to the moon, things like that. Yeah. Then I realized I had a platonic love with math. I love math, but math never loved me back. So it was the one subject in school that it was like, yeah, that I'm pushing that B like really hard. Mm-hmm. And I had to get like extra credits and whatever. So I told my mom, like, there's no way I'm going to study engineering. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I decided I was going to study film. You know what? My parents were actors. I always grew up in the TV and in the studio. Like, it makes sense that I stay in the family business, right? They didn't want me to be an actor for whatever reason. I was like, well, you have more control if you're like behind the cameras because you could be the boss, right? I'm the boss of the actors. So my parents kind of like that idea. They did put an ultimatum that if I didn't have the highest grades in all college, they were going to take me out of film and make me study something else that would make money. And I was like, all right, no pressure. So while I was studying film, I always obviously kept playing soccer. Funny enough, I was playing on a semi-professional team with Luchi Gonzalez, which is now the coach for FC Dallas. Mm-hmm. I played in high school with his brother, and then there was a semi-professional team that he had with Eric Vasquez, who also played for Columbus Crew and some people like that. So I was playing with them. And at that time, my dad got invited by Fernando Fiore to go play. It was a pickup game. It was not a pickup game. It was an exhibition game. Somebody had passed away for Radio Caracol, and they were gathering funds to bring money for his family and whatnot. So it was a game between the people from Radio Caracol and the people from Univision. My dad at that point was working in Univision. They brought me as a ringer, because, you know, you always want to win the games, even though it's an exhibition, and you're like, let's bring the 19-year-old who's right in shape to do this. Yeah. So they bring me in. I started playing. Some guy went really hard on me for like the first couple of plays. So then I stopped thinking that I was friendly, and I started playing for real. I ended up scoring 3 goals because I'm younger than everybody else and a lot faster. So one of the guys on the team was a producer for Univision, and he was the first person. He now works for Fox Sports, and I love him dearly. And he was the first person that told me, "Hey, so what you're studying?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to school for film." He goes, "But you love soccer. Have you ever thought about doing sports and television?" And I was like, that's a thing. Like, you're right. He invited me to come watch a game. Just watched what they did. It's like, he was a producer. It's like, why don't you come watch what I do and see what you think? And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So I woke up on a Saturday, went to watch I don't remember what game it was, but it was Mexican League. And I went to watch the Liga MX. I'm sitting there watching how they produce it, how the graphics are done, that kind of stuff. And me being me, that I can never stop, like, keep my mouth shut. Something was not right. And I'm like, but are you sure about that? Because wasn't he like 97 when I'm pretty sure there was this guy. And he's like, can you guys check that online? Yeah, Carlos is right. Like, you got the stuff wrong. Thanks for catching it before he went on air. And I'm like, no problem. So they were like, dude, you're great for this job. Like, why don't you stay? And that was my first job. I was an associate producer at Univision for a year and a half before the 2010 World Cup. I was still in college, so I was taking 5 classes and working like 60 hours a week. So I had to die.
Hey, man, when did you find any time to sleep?
I slept at the school. I literally, because the games were at night. So for example, we had CONCACAF Champions League. So my normal Wednesdays will be like, I will have classes from noon to 4. Then I had to drive to Univision. I will have games from 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12. And then we usually have a 12 to 2 in the morning. That was a game that was out of sync with when it was live. And after I was done with that 2 in the morning game, I will go straight to school to finish my homework, and I would just sleep on the bench on my classroom. Like sometimes the professors will walk in, and I was sitting there sleeping.
Oh wow!
This is where being in the East Coast helps out for him, right? That way, if it wasn't for the games being so late, right, it worked out. Yeah.
Wow, that's called dedication too. I mean, not everybody could do that, right? I mean, I don't want to drive down to the liquor store to buy a beer, let me sit through 5 classes and say go and do this and then sleep at school. I mean, that takes a lot of dedication. That's kudos to you, man. Kudos to you.
I mean, it was funny because the sad part was that I literally finished college. Like I graduate and they laid me off. So I did that while I was still in school, but because we had in 2008 when the real estate market crashed, my position was frozen. So I got let go in 2009 when I literally after I graduated. So I went back to coaching. I coached for a little bit, and then I received a call from a friend of my dad that he had been his producer at Telemundo. My dad did the morning show on Telemundo for like 2 years and a half with Maria Antonieta Collins and Jose Diaz Balart. And he called me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody that has kind of your same profile, like you have a friend, whatever." I'm like, "What about me?" And he goes, "But you're working in Univision." I'm like, "No, I'm not." "Wait, I just asked the guys and they said that you were working up there." I'm like, "Dude, I've been without a job for like 3 months. Come over. Let's see what I can do." But he was having a casting for a new show that we were gonna have in back then it was Mundos. I go to the casting. I bombed the casting. I asked him, I was like, "Can I do the casting?" Because when I got laid off from Univision, my same boss was like, "Hey, Carlos, like, take it or leave it. This is not something that you've mentioned. This is not something that I've seen you say, but I think you will be good on camera. You're Mexican, first generation, you're bilingual, you know a lot of people on the sport, you actually know them, like you have their numbers and you can call them, and you coach. I think you'll be good on camera. Like if that's something that you're interested in, mind you might not be, and you would say like, oh, whatever, I don't care. But that you should give it a thought." And that really like put the idea in me, like, you know what? I never thought I could do this, but there's somebody who's been in this business for 10 years telling me that I could do it. Might as well listen to him, right? So I took acting classes, voice lessons, presenting lessons, because it's something I didn't like. I mean, I obviously saw it because my parents could do it, but I never did it professionally. So I wanted to try to learn and like how to manage myself on camera and be able to speak. It's kind of at the beginning, it's kind of like, oh my God, I'm a camera. What am I supposed to say? Especially when you're on the TV environment. So this guy calls me. I go to the casting. I did horribly because a lot of people, you think you know sports, right? Like we can sit here and talk about soccer forever. Yeah. But then when you're sitting there and the plays are running and you have to talk on top of them and say the names and whatever, it's a whole different monster. I didn't know that at that point, so I bombed it. It was like, all right, this is not going well. Right. So this guy is like, "Hey, listen, like it was horrible. you gotta still a lot to learn, but why don't you stay as a producer, keep preparing yourself, and eventually like the opportunity will come." I was all right, cool. I stayed with him as an associate producer again, and Telemundo at the network in Miami. So I worked on the national Telemundo for 6 years as a producer. I'm really really grateful for all my bosses, which are still my bosses now to this day, because those are the people I do the Chivas games with. But they give me the opportunity to work qualifiers for Mexico, Olympic games. Tokyo would actually be my third Olympics. So I did London, I did Rio. I got to produce a lot of the games. I produced Premier League. I produced Mexican Championships. So I think it was a good school in general to be able to do those things. But I still wanted to call games. That's what I wanted to do, and I was behind the camera. So in 2015, when Telemundo gets the rights to the World Cup, the U20 was the first tournament that we had. And those games were at 3 a.m. because it was New Zealand. Uh-huh. And they were looking for somebody to call the games outside. And I was like, please let me do it. Just please let me do it. Just please I begged so much for like the like 4 weeks that they were looking for somebody until they were like, all right, fine, go do the casting and see how you do with the people from digital. So I went to our team in digital. I did the casting with them. They presented it, and they let me do the games. And they're like, you're gonna do 5 games. Okay, Fiji against Myanmar, U20 in New Zealand. The game's at 2:45 in the morning. I swear I was there at midnight, like with the biggest smile on my face, and I had all these notes. It's like, I was like, it's my first game. I got this. Yeah. My first game actually, and I'm gonna remember this forever. My first game actually was the CONCACAF qualifiers 3rd round. I called by myself, like I did a play-by-play and the analysis by myself. Guatemala against Bermuda. It was a 0-0 game. It was a 0-1 game.
Oh, 0.
That was my first game ever. So it was like, wow, like they just threw me to the fire. Like there's not a lot of information of people from Bermuda. This is my first game. I had to do all 90 minutes by myself.
Oh, yeah.
But it was great. And after those 5 games, they let me do 45 games. So I ended up doing the U20, the U15, the U17, the Women's World Cup, and the Beach Soccer World Cup. I ended up doing the 3rd place on air on television for it was Germany against England for the 2015 Women's World Cup. And after I did that, I was like, I can do this. Like I can definitely do this. I met my wife. My wife, it's huge on social media. If you follow her, Amanda La Gringa. And she was like, why don't you have your own YouTube channel? Like, that's the best way to do it. So I ended up doing videos on Facebook. And I started doing those videos on Facebook, and I had I started having a lot of views, even though I had like very few followers. And that was another, I can't do this. So long story short, I quit my job as a producer. I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I want to be on camera. I told the guys, hey, listen, I love you to death. You gave me a lot of opportunities, but there's no place for me here, and I want to do this. That's fine. Go, if you're sure that's what you want, and we'll keep an eye on you. All right, cool. And I left. I was a YouTuber for like 6 months, and then my wife, we were living together already at the time, and she was like, well, this is not sustainable because you're not making any money. So we need to find another way. And we moved to McAllen, Texas, in a really small station for Telemundo, the Telemundo local. And I became their sports anchor Monday to Friday. So I started covering high school sports, and that's where I started on television. Lucky for me, they called me back from the network, and I was able to do the Russia World Cup. I followed Argentina as a field reporter. Then I did the Women's World Cup, and I covered basically 38 out of the 54 games. I'll be going to Tokyo, and that's how I am here today. After 2 years in McAllen, they called me from the Bay Area, and they're like, "Hey, we have an opening. Will you be interested?" And I'm like, "You have very professional sport, of course. I'm going." And here I am.
Nice, man. No, it's an amazing journey, Carlos. And I think, for me anyways, what I loved is that, I think all of us at one point, we had to fail to learn, right? And you had a bomb to realize like, okay, do I really want this? And you did, man. Some people just bomb and quit. Like you just kept going, you know what? I even though I bombed, I loved it. I still wanted to pursue it. And you were patient, like 6 years, right? You said in producing. Yeah. Till that opportunity finally presented itself, man, and that's a great story, man. It's just opportunity, to keep going. Yeah.
To piggyback on what you're talking about, Z, I mean, not only just but the fact to actually try and do it, because a lot of people are just too reserved and are just like, even like for me, for example, some people say, hey, you should do this, you should do this, and I'm like, no. As a matter of fact, I met a friend at a bar yesterday, and he was talking about me getting a seat with the city and the city council, and I'm like. Like, what do you like? What? Like, no, you can do it, this and that. And I'm like, I talk about Adrian, right? God bless his heart. But I'm like, no, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna take that challenge. I'm not gonna take that leap of faith, right? I mean, that's just me. But just taking that leap of faith alone, I mean, that speaks volume, man. That speaks volume. I mean, you're jumping right into the fire.
And I think that's the best way to learn, right? The fact that, dude, right when you told me that they put you in by yourself, when I'm thinking like, when you're calling a game. You have a co-anchor, right? You have somebody there with you that can feed off each other. But dude, the fact that you did it alone, man, your first one, that is legit. Like you accelerated your growth, man, when it came to that. I could just imagine how nervous you were. Like how did you feel being, hey, you're all alone. You got 90 minutes. Go.
I think it was intimidating when they presented the thing. It's like, so here's your first game, and this is how it's gonna be done. I had a week to prepare, fortunately, but at the beginning I'm like, damn, that's nerve-wracking because I'm by myself. But then at the end I'm like, you know what? Like honestly, the first thing I thought was like, wait, but that's it. I have to shine. Like I prepared for that game like it was the final of the World Cup. That's how I approach it. I'm like, I don't care what happens in this game. Like I'm gonna make this game the best game that you ever heard. Even if it's not, because I'm obviously new, and now I listen to myself. Like I actually have it somewhere there, somewhere saved, and now I listen to the game and I'm horrible, or at least to my standards, it's like, oh my god, how can I do that? But it was a starting point, and when I think like that was me when I didn't know how to do it, and it's still pretty. I think it's still pretty decent, and that's something that on the new generations, when I hear people that are interested or when they talk to me about it, I try to be critical. But it's always like, this is your room for improvement, but here's your base. This is the base of things that you do right. This is what you do right. Obviously, there's places to improve, and you can't stay where you are. You want to be better, but yeah, if you wanna do it, like I was just excited today, like coming to do those games at 3 a.m. with teams that like random like middle of Asia nations or whatever. To me, it was just as exciting as calling the Champions League.
Yeah, it would be one thing. I think maybe if you call like a Mexico game or a Chivas game, or you know the players and you know the numbers, you know the hairstyle, you know right away who they are, and it comes quicker. But when you're calling teams
based off numbers and unique
names, I have no idea who it is, and I'm like,
I didn't tell Carlos this, but we tracked down your first broadcast, so we're gonna play it right now, and we're gonna listen to it. Just kidding.
I wish it was somewhere online.
I was like, and roll tape. Let's take a look. No, that's cool, man. So Carlos, that's amazing. The fact that your journey and where you're at this point, man. And now you're in the Bay Area, so you're everywhere. Dude. You're doing a lot, man. I don't know how you're probably going back to your college days. Do you even sleep? Like you're constantly doing something, man. It seems like you're active in so many different things. So tell me about your current projects. I know it's Chivas in English, and then you support the 49ers también.
Well, since I'm the local sports anchor for the local station here in the Bay Area, we basically cover every sport, right? So you also have to become a jack of all trades. And I'm a big sports fan in general. Obviously, to be honest, my knowledge in soccer is nowhere close as it is to the rest of the sports. I know or I like football enough to be able to do it. I also happen to be on a flag football team that was very professional, because I gotta give those guys, like, they actually made me practice and learn formations. They gave me a playbook, and so I get a little bit of the X's and O's, and that helps. But we cover every team. Like here, you have everything. So we're actually partners with the San Jose Earthquakes. We're partners with the San Francisco Giants. So they're two of the biggest teams that we cover. Obviously, with the Earthquakes, we have a great relationship. So I have a really good relationship, for example, with Osvaldo Alanis, Tommy Thompson, some of the other players. So that helps out. With the Niners, it's obviously also the Niners games on Sundays are on NBC. NBC is our sister station, so we have a big connection there. And then obviously now with the Giants, now with the MLB starting, I feel like the Oakland teams is something that we hadn't really pushed. We're trying to incorporate more of ace coverage now that the Oakland Roots are on the USL. They're going to be also a big part of those partnerships. But you got to do it all. And then you have the Warriors, you have the Sharks, and you have talks with them, and you go to press conference. So it's really exciting. I mean, when I was luckily for me, when I was in National, I get to do a lot of stuff. Like I actually did, as a producer, I actually was part with the production of 2 of the Super Bowls. So we had to, I already done 3 Super Bowls. So 2 as a producer, 1 as an anchor when the Niners made it to the Super Bowl in Miami. It happened to be in Miami, so I was able to travel because it was really easy. I could move around the city without hesitation. So all those things become an opportunity, and being on the field. Like I just love sports, and being able to be on the field, on the court, it's just amazing.
Well, this is going to be super cool, because obviously you're in the Bay Area. We do have a Pancho Villa's Army chapter in San Francisco. We got a lot of members in San Jose. We got Oakland. So when they see this, they're going to recognize you. They know because they're Quakes fans. They're 49er fans. I know maybe like 1 or 2 A's fans maybe, but everyone else is a Giants fan, right? So they're all they're going to recognize you, and they're going to be like, oh, what's up with that? That's super cool, man. But no, the Bay Area is I was able to visit the Bay Area last time Mexico played there. and I had never been there. It's super cool. San Francisco is super cool. The Bay Area. I mean, I grew up in Southern California, right? They're two totally different lifestyles, two totally different. It's kind of like the same culture, but it's a different way of life, and it's super cool, super nice. Love the Bay Area. Love the Bay Area.
Yeah. No, I mean, he went from Miami to what, Dallas? He said that was a Dallas.
McAllen. I wish it was. It was McAllen. It was a really. I was right in the border with Reynosa, so that was a learning experience.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool. I mean, definitely a good place to go to be a part of. But let's talk about your fandom, man. So I know that you cover these teams. I imagine you start to get a special place in your heart for these teams because you cover them. But who are your teams? Like who's your club team? Like who'd you grow as? Cruz Azul?
If you had asked me 10 years ago before I started working on this, I would say Pumas. My dad played for Pumas, not for the first division, but in high school, and then with that the University of Mexico actually has an intercollegiate tournament in between the faculties. One of the faculties, the schools. Mm-hmm. So my dad played for accounting, and I think his brother played for engineering or something like that. He also played football, American football, for Pumas, and for the lower divisions when he was in high school, and he was a water boy for the ONEFA team. So my sister went to the UNAM, so we're big Pumas fans in that sense. Growing up, I was a Pumas fan. Then I obviously played for Cruz Azul, and I mean I loved playing for Cruz Azul, and I took it to heart, like when we went to represent Cruz Azul in international tournaments, because sometimes you were not even Cruz Azul, you were that team from Mexico.
Yeah.
So for me, wearing the shirt and having the stars and the little logo on the bottom that said Mexico and going to these international tournaments, it was like I like Cruz Azul. Like Cruz Azul, it's my team. I also got a lot of cool experiences because being part of the team, you get to be ball boys for the team, for the games. And when Cruz Azul won the 1997 championship, I got to be a ball boy for the final. So you get to see the players all the time. Like, so I love Cruz Azul in that sense. Nowadays, it's just you become a mashup of everything. Like I'm not even a Pumas fan like I used to be, because I have friends in America, for example. Oscar Jimenez, the backup keeper for America, is a good friend of mine. Memo Ochoa has a good relationship with my dad. So you want them to do well. Like I don't have a problem with America doing well. You have friends, especially on the people that work on press. One of my biggest friends from high school now is the main guy for press in Atlas. Or my family's from Guadalajara, so they're all Chivas fans. Now I work with Chivas really closely, and I call their games, and I take pride on being the voice in English of Chivas. So nowadays, I would say I just love everybody, and the only one that doesn't change is the national team. That's it. I was talking to my wife when we were watching the Preolímpico. Mm-hmm. That's the only one that as much as I enjoy and I appreciate, for example, the teams from CONCACAF that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people take down the people from CONCACAF. I've been lucky enough to go to those games when Honduras plays El Salvador, or like not when they play Mexico, not all the time. Like sometimes they play other teams. Even on the World Cup, I was covering Panama, and I respect them, and I respect the players, and I've been able to talk to some of them, and they're really cool people. So I like that CONCACAF does well in general. I love that El Salvador, Honduras, and Panama beat other teams and show them that this is not a walk in the park. Those guys could be good.
Yeah.
So, but I when I'm a fan. Like I still see Mexico, and I still got the little inch. Probably not if I was working, but like a little itch. But no, probably if I was working the game, I would probably restrain it a little better, and we'll be able to be a little more objective. But when I'm watching, it's still the only team that really pumps it up. It's
got to be hard though, right, man? Especially if you're covering a Mexico game, for example, and they just go to that finally that Quito partido or something just like is just one in a lifetime, whatever play, or we beat a big team or something. It's got to be hard to restrain yourself. I mean, I don't know how you can do it. I would
Germany. Talk about the Germany game last World Cup. I mean, are you kidding me? What was your reaction?
Well, I was lucky. That game was funny because I was not supposed to go to that game. Mm-hmm. That day I was supposed to be in the Fan Fest. If you remember, the Germany game happened on Father's Day. It was a Sunday. It was Sunday, June 16 or June 17, and it was supposed to be Father's Day. It was Father's Day. Mm-hmm. So they sent me to the Fan Fest to do a a story on fans that happened to be with their parents or with their fathers, so to make a Father Day piece. But while I was there, all of a sudden I get a call and they're like, we need the same piece, but do it at the stadium. So when the game is over, or before the game starts, find fans that are with their fathers and do that piece. All right, cool. The distances in Russia were horrendous. In Moscow, the traffic is worse than Mexico City or LA. If you think the I-10 at 7 p.m. is bad, you've never been in Moscow. So I had to drive from one to the other. We're rushing. We get to the stadium. The game had just started. It was like 2 minutes into the game when I got there. And I'm sitting there. I'm in the press room. In the press room, I didn't have access to the stadium. You're in the press room, and you can only watch it on the monitors. But I ran into one of our audio people, and they're like, "Oh, you're here!" And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, they sent me to do a piece, and I'm just waiting for the game to be over to like really crank it up. And he goes, "You want to watch it from our studio? We had a studio in Lushniki on one of the corners facing the field." And I'm like, "I can go up to the studio?" And he's like, "Yeah, just come with me." He takes me up to the studio, and I watched the whole game at the studio. I sat there in the corner, and actually the corner where we were on the stadium, like it was facing the field like this. Chucky Lozano scored that goal. Oh, and I was with Chucho Ramirez, his wife, may she rest in peace, and Miguel Gurwitz. And Gurwitz, Jesus and I, we just lost it. Like we're jumping, hugging each other, whatever. And the only part where you have to be professional, I guess, like translate to the point that you were making, is that I look at the time, and when there were 10 minutes left, I just left. I didn't watch the end of the game because I had to work. So to me, that's one of the things, like, you need to leave the fan out. And even though you're at these events and you get to watch the games and whatever, your job's first. And there's something that you have to do with it. And I think a lot of people, especially nowadays with social media and everything, is where they struggle the most.
Mm-hmm. I know one thing that's funny you mentioned when you were mentioning that you have a favorite team, but then you get to know other players from other teams and you kind of embrace it. And I think because we're hardcore Chivas fans, right? So we're like American fans, But then we have a player like Janely Frias, who played with the women's team. Now she went to America. I consider her a dear friend because she was on the show and we got a chance to know her and we talk here and there. And all of a sudden she goes to America and I'm like, what do I do now? Like, do I stop talking to her? No. I mean, she's super cool. She's a super awesome person. So I'm not. So, you'll see my posts. Like I'll like America post, which I never thought I was going to do. I never thought I was going to like an America post or whatever. But when she posts something, we're supportive of her. So I totally know exactly what you mean about that.
Yeah, and it's funny because they recently had the Clásico, right? The women, the America and Chivas, and Yaneli scored, right? She did a header, so I actually cheered, and I'm going, oh, dude, I'm cheering for America. What's wrong with me? But it's Yaneli, dude. Like, hey,
yeah,
we still won. It was still a big win. So it was interesting. Yeah, it trips you up.
You get the best out of both worlds if they tie, because right, like if Janely scores and then Chivas happens to, or they win 2-1, you're like. So I have a double win. They won, and Janely scored. So both wins. We get both wins.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about women's soccer, how do you feel? Obviously, when you talk women's soccer, you think the U.S. national team, right? Because they're the pinnacle, right? They're the top. And now that you see the leagues in Mexico starting to come together, and you're starting to see the level of play excel, to me, I think they're exceeding expectations. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's tough because I understand the point of view of everybody said like, well, it's hard because they don't make money, right? They don't make a revenue. And while that's true, the biggest example I put in economics from the business perspective, I'm like, well, that is true, but let's say you have a taco stand. If you have a taco stand and you decide to go to a corner in the middle of an alley and sit there and then complain that people don't watch you or that people don't come to buy your tacos, well, that's also on you because you're sitting in the middle of an alley. And I think women's soccer in general in a lot of countries, something that we just have to admit is that as mainstream media, we tend to not pay attention to them with the excuse that they don't make money, but we're not giving them the limelight. So with a very little funding and the little bit of light that they're shining on the Mexican league, they're doing amazing. I think the growth is there. The numbers show that there's growth, whether it's in social media, in the viewership, And it's little by little, yes, but it's just investing on it, and you don't have to pour millions on it at a time. You need to meet the investment, increase the investment as you see that it's growing. But I think it's very important to see, especially the partnership with the sponsors. In Mexico, they make a lot of excuses, and I'm sure you guys, if you talk to Yaneli, you probably have met the people from Market Jersey who work with Janelli. Guillermo is really savvy on the business aspect of it, and it's hard to get those sponsorships, and they don't have an excuse to give you the sponsorship. They literally make up whatever excuse, and that's the biggest problem. You see it with the NWSL this season, after they were able to shine light just on the NWSL because they were the only league that came back during the pandemic, and they were the first ones to create the bubble. Now you see that they have Ally, they have Budweiser, they have Nationwide, they have what's a cosmetic? They had like 6 or 7 big time sponsorships. Nike, all that big money is coming because one, there's a move to try to increase the visibility on the women's game, and second, because there is going to be a payback. Are you going to see it right now, like right away? No. But when you compare it to soccer, or the men's soccer that has existed and has been consistently being poured money into for 70, 80 years, you're not on an even playing field. You have to even that out a little bit. You're not going to give them the same amount of money. Nobody's saying that. And a lot of people get confused, equal pay and those things, dollar by dollar. And that's not what it is. It has to be equity. It's just the fact that if we have talent like Alison Gonzalez, if we had talent like Katy Martinez, you got to make sure that we can nurture that talent and eventually make it grow and send her abroad. Yeah. Who knows? Katy and Alison might be the next superstar for Olympique Lyon in or for Chelsea that it's blowing up now in Europe. So, or Barcelona, who knows? I mean, you have Kenty Robles playing in Real Madrid. There's been other players that have played in big teams, and the team is growing. So it's just a matter of focusing on the fact that this is a product that people are searching for. It might be niche, but it doesn't matter. We live in a niche era. People who listen to the podcast probably don't listen, even though they like soccer, they might not listen to this podcast because they like European soccer. So they're going to go and look for a European soccer podcast. It's the exact same thing. Yeah. There is a market for it. So explore the market and make it work.
Yeah, I think as fans, we need to continue to promote it ourselves, right? I mean, because that's how sponsorships come, right? Is eyes, is interest, and they go, wow, there's a following, right? I mean, there's something we can tap into, and that's something that we can do, right? Just continue to spread the word, talk about it, and just get people excited, and letting them know, hey, give it a try, man. It's really entertaining.
And on the other side of the token, one of the things that I think I'm really excited about is the fact that we can get the ladies need leagues to play in. They need to continue to play. If we want to compete with the U.S. women's team, or we want to get up to that bar, the only way to get there by practicing and playing. So, it's an investment, not a short-term investment, but it's a long-term investment, medium to long. But you can totally see the quality. I can absolutely, and the reason I say it is because I coach soccer too. I coach at the high school as well. So I see the girls come from freshman to junior, to sophomore, junior, and then sophomore, but to see them grow. I mean, we had girls that they couldn't walk straight, let alone kick a ball. And then all of a sudden they're looking, we had one, I forgot what coach it was, one of the coaches from the women's soccer team came out and took a look at some of the girls, and he wanted to take one of the girls. And I'm thinking, this girl could barely kick a ball. Now she's being looked at to possibly going to go play for Mexico. And so to me, I think that's just great that they deserve that opportunity. Everyone deserves that opportunity, and why not? Why not? It's just gonna be better for everybody.
And you see it on the World's Game. I mean, if you look at the last Women's World Cup that I loved being a part of, to me I think it was eye-opening, not to myself because I've watched women's soccer for so long, but it was eye-opening for a lot of people to see, like, if that game between France and the US at the Parc des Princes in Paris, the house of Paris Saint-Germain, with a full stadium with 40,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs, and the game the way it happened, and the goals by Wendy Renard and the goals by Tobin Heed, and how we got talked about it. It was in the papers all over Paris the next day. I think like that was, and just how big just because of the investment that one team or two teams have had in France, because Olympique Lyon and Paris Saint-Germain are at the top of that movement, just to see the quality of that French team, just with that little investment on those two teams, to be able to match the US and have that kind of soccer, to me, that was unbelievable. And I think that that's proof that if you give it a try and if you work it, it should be. And I mean, you're listening to this now, but for the next Women's World Cup in Australia in 2023, you can expect, for example, England to be one of the top. They're already one of the top teams, but it's going to be even better because these new deals that they've signed for the league with Sky Sports and with all these people that are investing on the women's team, you're going to see England blow up all of a sudden. And it's very obvious. It's that simple.
That investment, man. That investment.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, let's transition. So good discussion, man. But let's transition into you're wearing the jersey, the new Mexico jersey. I love that you put a post out because, dude, like I said, there was a lot of controversy. Oh, and it always happens. I mean, there's always going to be some people that just don't like whatever, even if it was a green of edited. There'll be something that people would criticize about. But the color change was something that stood out. And you did a post, right, explaining, hey, this is the color, this is why we have it, and you did a phenomenal job. So, tell us about your impression of the jersey and your thoughts. I mean, you're definitely wearing it, so definitely.
I know, right? Well, the first thing is, I'm very traditionalist in the jersey sense for the national teams. I do believe that overall Mexico should be green all the time, but that doesn't mean that if they make a change, I'm just going to completely reject it. Especially nowadays, like. I feel like, and this is something coming from a person who collects a lot of jerseys, the fact that whoever designs the jersey, there's always a story behind. For example, the 2014 jersey, you remember that? Like, I call it Power Ranger and the Charlie Brown jerseys for the World Cup.
Yeah, the Charlie Brown.
It's the Charlie Brown and the Power Rangers to me. But there was so much thought behind it. It might have worked out or not. That's a whole different story. But they did the research and there was a cool story behind it. And I feel like this one was kind of thing. And black and hot pink or rosa mexicano is one of my favorite combinations ever. Actually, any shade of pink with black is one of my favorite combinations ever on soccer jerseys. Palermo, love it. Inter Miami, that they decided to go that route. I have everything. I also have a TikTok about it. I have from the polo all the way to both jerseys. Like, I bought everything.
Yeah.
One of them I might have got it from the team, but that's a whole different story. So I just love the combination. And I saw it and I'm like, well, this is interesting because I need to go find out. I also, and this is something that I haven't posted just because it's kind of like the train died a little bit and I didn't say it. But when I look at the design, I knew for a fact, and you guys were part of this, a lot of the marketing and the idea behind this jersey was aimed at the American consumer in the sense of the Mexican-American consumer, right? Like, we're the English first, people who live in the U.S. And when I look at the design, I'm like, that design looks really familiar. And a lot of people in Mexico didn't see it, but it's a Southwestern design. Mm-hmm. And when I look at it, and again, this is not official by Adidas. I even asked them. I was like, let me go ask the brand about it. And they were like, no, well, we don't know who did it. I will actually have to go find the designer. But there's the design of Navajo Aztec ponchos that is very well known. They're made in Arizona. The Native Americans from Arizona still make them, and again, it's a fusion from the Aztecs, the Mexicas or the Chichimecas that moved down to the South Mexico and founded what basically will become the Aztec Empire, and the people who stayed up. So I think that there's that relationship into the Mexican American community of like the design of the jersey speaks to that. Mm-hmm. So having all that together, I was like, well, let me explain these things because there's a lot of cultural elements that they go into, and then at the end of the day, they just push it out. And sometimes the designer doesn't have a say on how the marketing is done, and those things kind of get lost. I didn't think it was going to explode the way it did, because to me, it was like, if you go to my TikTok, I probably have like 9 of them. So it was like, oh, let me do this TikTok. And I pushed the TikTok, all of a sudden it's like, dude, this being shared on Reddit, and this being shared here, and this shared here. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And it was just that I actually had also the luck that Ramon Baldosiera's family retweeted it and took it and posted it on their own site. So it basically now part of like the Rosa Mexicano official story. So that was really cool.
No, it's crazy how an idea and you sharing that, just, things you didn't expect it to go as big as it did, but it's pretty amazing, man.
I've talked to people, we've talked about it because that video, it really literally blew up. And a lot of people, that video put people at ease. that video just kind of like,
okay.
Yeah. You know, people just kind of like, okay, then they understand. And then the latest one that you had done about the original color of the jersey back in 1923 was red, right? When you did that one, you know, it's like, okay, guys, you know, you don't be so close-minded. We love tradition, right? We love La Verde, but you got to look at the big picture. And I think, you know, we have to open our minds, right? Not just be so close-minded. And those two videos you did, I mean, I got to applaud you. I mean, it's like you did homework or whatever it is you did. It just put a lot of people at ease. And again, I think I was like, I was grateful that you did that, because I'm like, you know what? I'm a big supporter of anything Mexico does. Man, they can make a jersey out of latas and they won't whatever. I'm gonna buy it, bro. I might not like it, but I'm gonna buy it. You know, I got every single jersey. So, you know.
One thing that I learned about Carlos is that, dude, if I ever go to a trivia that has to do with soccer and most of Mexico, dude, I'm gonna be like, Carlos, hey, dude, phone a friend, come in, dude, we're doing this.
He's your lifeline, right? He's your lifeline.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think this comes full circle. When I started doing my videos on Facebook, it was about the crests. Like, for example, Zargento is wearing the Chivas the Chivas logo. That's not the original Chivas logo. And I will go into the story of what it was Club Unión, what it looked like, how that transformed into this Chivas logo, and that has the city of Guadalajara crest on it, or coat of arms on it, why that was important. And one, for example, since we're here, one of the trivia points that I found through research, and it's not on the official site, because if you go to the official site of Chivas, they're going to tell you that the rojiblanco, the stripes, came because Everaert, the guy who founded Chivas, Edgar Everaert, who was the Belgian guy who founded Chivas, was the guy that actually funded the team or invented the team. He was a fan. They say that he was a fan of Club Brugge in Belgium, right? So if you look at the Club Brugge jerseys nowadays, there's stripes like Inter Milan, black and blue. But in 1906, when Chivas was invented, they didn't wear those colors. It's the same as you go back in history. I went into the Brugge archive and into their website, and in 1905, 1906, they were a separate color. The stripes didn't appear till 1930, 1913 or 1914. And knowing how information spread back then and whatever, it's like there's no way Everaert knew that in Bruges, in Belgium, they had just changed the stripes, and that same year he decided to put stripes on the Chivas jersey. That's not a thing. When you look at the city of Bruges, the flag of the city of Bruges, it has a blue lion with red and white stripes. Mm-hmm. So him being from Bruges, from Belgium, and seeing that, he probably grabbed the flag and put it into the jersey. So that's something I learned, but it's not on the. If you go to the official site of Chivas, they'll tell you, oh, no, it's because it was based on the Club Brugge, and it's like that jersey did not exist. There's no way. Oh,
that's great. That's interesting, man. And I did watch some of your other ones, and you did talk about like the Inter Milan, and you do the logo, even the Quakes one. The San Jose Quakes, how they went from a couple different leagues to a couple different colors, a couple designs, even the scorpion, and just kind of like. Now to what we know now today as and I think that that's super cool, because a lot of people, that's some cool information that you want to know where you come from, like just like our roots, because soccer is so dear to us. It's like family, right? It's like we hold it together, we hold it like it's family. We want to know about our ancestors, we want to know about our grandparents, and going back and doing that research and providing that, I think that's super cool. So I just want to give you applause for that. Thank you.
If you're a true fan, you can watch those for hours, right? So definitely, you can just go there and just get immersed in all that information. All right, we're running out of time. I want to play this quick game. It's perfect timing because we're talking about jerseys. I want to take Coronel. You're a big Chivas fan. Carlos, you're very involved with Chivas now. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna play this quick game, and then we're gonna wrap up with it. It's called Chivas Año, right? Like
okay.
Chivas, no, but Chivas Año. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to pull up a Chivas jersey, and both you and Coronel have to guess what year it came out.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Good.
Whoever answers first gets, of course, picks it, and then you'll get the point. But, we'll go from there. Let's take a look.
Okay.
This one. What year? 2020, 2009, 2019.
2019, 2020.
2019, 2020.
He's gonna be like, what he said.
I gotta let him answer first. Then go for it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait for Carlos to give his answer first.
All right, that is correct. Good job, man. 2019, 2020. Good job. Next one. They're gonna get harder, man. Here we go. 2001, 1999, or 05.
I'm gonna say, Atletica. Let me see, 26. It's Reebok. Let me see, 1980. I'm gonna say 2000, 1999, 2000.
Okay, Carlos.
Yeah, same.
99, 2000. Ooh, off by a year. It's
2001, right? 2001, 2002.
0102. All right, here we go. One for one. Or one. You guys are basically 1 and 1. Here we go. This one, 18, 15, 10.
2010, 2011.
I'm gonna say 15, 16, just to be different.
Coronel got it. 15, 16. Oh, all right. Here we go. Next one. 15, 02, 17.
These are tricky. So they had just won the championship.
That's it. 2017, 2018.
Okay. Got it.
Yes.
17, 18. Correct. Man, you guys are on it. All right, here we go. Get down to our last few. 95, 98, 06.
06.
Yeah, so 06.
06. Man, this is back to back. Here we go. It's getting heated up. Last one. 05, 02, 95.
95, 96.
95, 96.
Man, good job, dude. You guys started building up momentum. You guys are on fire. I can't even tell who won. I think
we're. Oh, he won because I got wrong the one on the 2010 and he was 2015.
Oh, that's right.
I got one wrong. So here's a funny thing about the it gets a little trickier towards the later years because there's so many changes, right? And so we know when they went from one mark from ABBA to Atletica, and then we go to Reebok, and then they did Adidas, and now they're Puma. So that's a little bit easier. But when they're the same brand, that got a little bit trickier. Let me ask you a question, Carlos. Do you know what jersey, what year this one was?
That's 2004.
2004. Yeah, you're right. I think it was. You know, my favorite jersey, and I'm gonna share it. I don't have it with me. It's in the closet. My favorite jersey is the one that they never came out with. The one that was right before this one. When Vergara took over the team, he created this jersey, but the one that was supposed to come out before this was Atletica. They did one that was no logos. It was straight. It was the one with the collar. That is my favorite jersey, and they never played with it. They never played with it. But that to me is my favorite Chivas jersey.
Yeah, I have all my cool ones. I wish I could have had cooler ones to show you, but from the Mexican League, all my cool ones, I don't have them here. My dad has them in Miami. Some of them are actually his. I have Pavel Pardo's 1998 jersey, the one that Zargento has on his on his background. I have that jersey from Pavel Pardo, actually game worn in white.
Wow.
I have the Copa America one. Remember the one with the big M? I have Carlos Hermosillo's and Benjamín Galindo's from that Copa America. I think it was a friendly before Copa America, but I have those two match worn. Oh. I have a 2002 match worn jersey from Pumas that Parejita Lopez gave to me. And then we have every player from Cruz Azul from 1997, like Reynoso, Palencia, Hermosillo, Galindo, Adomaitis. Like my dad has all those. He has a concentration polo from Chivas from 1985 that Fernando Quirarte gave to him. So all those things, I don't have them. My dad gets to keep them. Here, the only one that I would say it's cool, Olympique Lyon celebrated their 106th anniversary, 116th anniversary, and they made a special edition jersey. And this is a crazy story. I met Vilas Boas, the coach. Well, he just got let go, or he just quit from Olympique Marseille. He also coached Chelsea and he coached Porto. A couple of years ago, there was some FIFA event. I get to interview him. We talked for more than what the interview was. One day he started following me on social media. It's the weirdest thing. And I saw he was looking at my post, and I'm like, why is Andre Vilas Boas looking at my stuff? Like, it's so weird. So one day I reached out when he had won something with Olympique Marseille, and I was like, "Oh, good job, Mister," or whatever. And he's like, "Thank you, Carlos," whatever. And I'm like, "Oh crap." So they posted that they were releasing this anniversary jersey, and I put as a joke, I love this jersey, I wish I could get one. And Andres Villas-Boas sent me one, so I have a full like Olympique Marseille like official patches and everything, and I'm like, what? So
Son detallitos, right? Son detallitos, and you're like, what the heck? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't even. I'm not even close to what you guys. I just started collecting them because they're way ahead of me. But
Carlos, real quick before we head out, we're closing our show real soon. What is your favorite Mexico jersey? I mean, because to be honest with you, to have a match worn jersey from the '98 that Azteca, everyone loves it. That is like awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what is your favorite Mexico jersey?
I mean, if as a fan, I would say that one. I think the design of the 1998 is so iconic that it's actually a lot of people from outside the country, because I got involved in like that, like, oh, we're all collectors kind of world, and some people from even the United Kingdom, they were talking about this one, how they love this one, because the black and pink, because they said, oh, you take risks. And I think the 1998 the design is really cool, and is just what it meant and everything. But I had the luxury of training with the national team for a couple of months. So if you remember, in 2003, they switched to Nike, and Nike had a purple or a Guinda practice jersey, and just I got to wear that, saying that was part of the national team. So to me, that's my favorite jersey.
I love that. I like that one too. I remember that one. I remember the Nike ones. Absolutely. My favorite one is the 2006. The one they used for the World Cup. I think it was South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. That to me is my favorite one. But Z, what about you? I think we've talked about this, right?
Yeah, and man, it's definitely the '98. I mean, that's my favorite one, dude. That's one that I wish we can, again, I don't know if they'll ever go back to something similar to that, but I just it's one of the ones that just stands out. It's unique, and then plus, getting it signed and everything's always also been special. So.
It's also hard because now the rules with uniforms in general for UEFA, CONCACAF, the World Cup are getting so strict. That's why you see, and there's a whole booklet. If people don't know that uniforms are actually supposed to be, the logos and the branding, whatever, is supposed to be a certain size and a certain dimension, and the colors cannot be a certain color, and the sleeves cannot be a certain pattern. All those things are in a booklet that you can find on FIFA. It's regulations of uniforms and whatever. UEFA has its own. And that's why you see nowadays more, pale uniforms. They also making a big push for people who are colorblind. So that's why they're pushing for colors to be a dark and a light, because they're thinking they were saying that 1 in every 4 men is colorblind. So it's important for them to feel them also included. So it's easier for them, for television, for the ref, to have a very contrasting uniform from one to the other, and that's why they're doing it.
And that is something I did not know.
There you go.
I thought they just made their thing and just, okay, let's go with it. Oh,
there's always regulations, man.
So they've got to submit it, get approval, kind of like a HOA, right? I got a letter from my HOA the other day that my lights and whatever.
You gotta stay within these dimensions. You gotta sign a freaking waiver and
Yeah.
Man, all right. Well, Carlos, thanks again for joining us, man. This is good. And you know what? Honestly, we can talk about so many different topics. And this is what I love about our podcast, right? It's like, hey, we're not going to sit here and drill you with questions. It's like, tell us, see where it takes us. And here's where it took us. And, again, definitely, I'll definitely take you up on that, getting your dad on here too, because he's a fanboy. He's funny as heck, dude. The guy's so animated. Every time I watch him in his stuff, the guy's just, is he still very active like that, Carlos, or is he kind of mellowed down over his years? My
dad's 73 years old, and if you go to his Instagram, you could never tell that. I hope I have his energy when I'm that age. It's somebody I always look up to. I haven't seen him in a year, so it's been tough.
Yeah.
We talk every day anyway, but he's my first idol. Then everything else.
Oh, he's amazing, man. Again, shout outs to your dad, but also your wife's a big YouTuber as well, and I get so entertained. My favorite one's the Reyes Magos that he did with your parents.
Yes.
Oh man, dude, and again, that's where I saw him. The guy's still very animated. You could tell that he just, your family is just so close, right? But any final thoughts, Carlos? Anything you're working on that you want to tell us about? Anything that you want to share with our viewers as we wrap up?
Anything? Yep.
Obviously, I don't want to extend your podcast, right? I was having this debate with Ramon Raya that he talked the whole podcast on hours, but he's fine. We love talking to Ramon. We're talking about a little bit about at the beginning before we started of things that if there's like new generations jumping on the wagon of like working in sports and things like that. I think, first of all, that I'm a terrible example of how to get there. I am aware of my privilege. I know I had some doors that were kind of open for me since I was born, basically. But I still needed to do the work in between. And I think the most important part is that now with social media and how we consume our things, if you want to say something, if you want to prepare a video, if you want to talk about the history of I don't know what, do your own research and post it. You don't never know. Like I never thought that TikTok was gonna blow up, and I'm on television, right? And probably people recognize me more. Like it's easier for me to put on my bio, I'm that guy from the Rosa Mexicano TikTok, than I work on Telemundo. Like I'm sure more people recognize you. So to me, that's now you have the tools. Like with a cell phone, you can do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So just don't be afraid of it. If that's something you want to do, explore it. Go make calls, call people. And now with social media. Text the player, like send him a DM. He might not answer, he might, who knows? But if you don't go ahead, I think like one of the things that I learned in the pandemic was especially that, like there's a lot of interviews that I've been getting lately that I've never gotten. And it's because I needed to be, for example, if I wanted to call America and say, yeah, listen, I want to talk to Guillermo Ochoa, they'll be like, well, where can you make it? Well, I only have these 2-3 days because I need to travel to Mexico. Well, he can't make it and you're done. There's no way around it. Yeah. Now it's like, well, he's available on Wednesday at 10 o'clock at night. Sure. He's sitting in his house. I'm sitting in my house, and we're going to do it on Zoom. Perfect. So I think those things are also like kind of like put your foot on the door. Like reach out to people. Let them know who you are. Let them know what you're interested in. And again, not every door is going to open, but sometimes you might find a window. And that's really important. And I feel like that the pandemic taught me that, and also the pandemic I was lucky enough that I got involved with the Chivas project. And one of the reasons why I got involved with the Chivas project is because I was in the pandemic. We're calling the games, and Jorge Calvo is in Miami, and I'm here in the Bay Area, and we're doing the games. And one, you can't really tell the fact that we're so far apart, and that we don't. I've known Jorge for ages, which helped out, but that chemistry we already had it because we're friends, but we're still really far apart to like be able to make that work, and it's happening. So the fact that obviously my bosses at Telemundo at the network trusted in me and said, hey, listen, we want you to be a part of this because you're bilingual and you know the game and you're more acculturated than a lot of our other anchors, and you're a younger voice, and we want you to be part of it. Like I'm really grateful for that. And then the fact that I'm be able to do it, and we're gonna do it again because this Sunday we Chivas play Santos, and I think that just in general, like Telemundo being involved with Chivas, which is the biggest team in Mexico, you could argue that America is too, and that's fine. I think they're just on equal levels of popularity and titles and how people follow them and the importance they get on the media. It's just as equal. Like whatever happens with America, what happens with Chivas is always gonna be news. So for us to be involved with them, working with them, and the fact that they're going to be here for quite a few years, it's really important for us. And I'm really, really excited that you can see it on our social platforms. You can go to telemundodeportes.com and watch the game. You can go to their app and watch the game. And also on SiriusXM on channel 211, you also have that available if you want to listen to the English broadcast. And I think getting close to more and more, like there's more and more Hispanics in the U.S., but there's also more and more Hispanics are born in the U.S. and they're English first, right? Like I'm not that. I actually sometimes struggle. Like I don't know if you can hear it because English is my second language. So it's been even a big journey to try to get here and feel comfortable speaking in English for so long. And I think that a lot of people like feel it close to heart, right? Like I want to identify with them. I want to bring them that idea that, yes, this is how things happen in Mexico. I was born and raised there, and I know the soccer from the inside, and I can give you that insight, but for you to consume it in a way that it's more palpable to you, that feels a little less foreign, even though everybody's used to the Spanish way of doing it. But I feel like if you can assimilate those concepts in English, helps out a little.
No, definitely. No, I mean, to me, I think it's super awesome. I mean, it's a big soccer community. We're all connected some way, right? We're starting to connect, and like you mentioned, reach out, talk to somebody, send a message, post a video. I mean, because eventually people start to see it, right? And And we end up. You mentioned Jorge Cabo. Saludos a Jorge. I mean, I met him back in Miami. There was a game in Miami. I met him. He's a super cool guy. Sent a couple messages here and there. But the fact you mentioned his name, and I'm like, yes, I know him, dude. So I was like, I met him a while back. So I was like, super cool because I feel like we kind of know each other now, and that's the power that we have right now with social media. And then especially with the pandemic and all of this stuff, everything virtual, no doors are closed. I mean, you just got to keep knocking. They're going to open. So
yeah. Thank you, Gunnar. Well said. And thank you, Carlos, as well. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we learned, right, that people look at the pandemic as this, this horrible time in our history. But I think it's going to make us better. It's allowed us to, take that we think we took for granted, how we can just be like, oh my gosh, like, whether it's family, since we haven't seen family for a while, how important they are and how often we need to stay in contact. The sports that we love, not having them for a while, I'm like, man, it's just how much we really enjoy. But it's really not the sports for me anyways. El Coronel, probably the same thing. Yes, our passion for La Selección, but also just being together with our members, man, and enjoying a good game. And I just thought at that moment, dude, when Chucky Lozano and you and a coworker were just cheering on, dude, that's us. Yeah. Every time that is, you're just being around people to enjoy those moments, and we'll remember them forever, man. So, from the Bay Area, from all the way here from Arizona, Coronel, Zargento, thank you very much, Carlos, and we'll be seeing you around, man. All the best. Thank you.
Absolutely, and hopefully it's not the last time.
I feel like Mexico team is very popular with a lot of Americans. I mean, think about celebrities. It's cool to be a Mexico fan. I mean, Snoop Dogg and dude, who all these just whether it's a jersey or marketing, who knows? But it feels like it's like a cool thing now. Like it's something that people want to.
Cool, bro. We've always been cool, man.